Joining us now, hockey icon Lou Nanne, fresh off another state tournament appearance. It's just remarkable how it continues to go year after year.
Yes, it is. It just every year is different. Every year is exciting. Every year is, for the players themselves, gives them memories for a lifetime.
All right, the Wild today raised to the rafters their first ever number, retiring the number 9 that Mikko Koivu wore during his time here. Why do you feel he was the perfect guy to be the first?
Well, he had a long, illustrious career. No one's had more time with the club and been more spectacular over that period of time, showing great qualities of leadership. He's always competitive. Every game that you saw him play, he always competed to the utmost. He never, ever left anything on the ice that wasn't his own hard work. He's a guy that you always would want on a hockey club because you know when he goes out there, he's going to do everything he can to win the game.
The NHL trading deadline a week from tomorrow. The Wild are in an interesting spot here all of a sudden. Before it looked like they were buyers. Now, maybe after this recent slide, Billy Guerin's thinking a different way. What do you think Billy's options are right here?
Well, I don't think he's seeing any different than improving the hockey club. I don't think he's looking at selling anything. There's a very competitive bunch of teams around them, and they've got to win to make the playoffs, and they know that. But anytime you have a team like that and you look at how your team's playing, and they had some trials here just recently, and they got to think, what can we do to make sure this club's going to make the playoffs, and what can we do to make sure we're not hurting the club for the future? So he's thinking all the way along. Any day he can make a trade, or he can change a couple players somewhere or the other, call someone from the minors, what have you, because Rossi's had a good year down there. But I think that he's going to be looking like all the other borderline playoff teams are looking right now, is how can we help this hockey team?
All right, how much does the dark cloud that everybody talks about with the Suter and Parisi buyout affect him now in what he brings in? You said he wants to bring in people with term, but if they have, big term on there, he's got to move some other pieces. Is this going to handicap him, do you think?
Well, it's going to handicap them without a doubt in a way, because there are some guys that I can talk about right now that are free agents, but they're older, but they have high contracts. They got large contracts, and you can't fit that into the cap space that you have for the next 2 years after this. That's a problem, because they do have to re-sign Fiala, and they have to find a way to work him in. And they have to improve a couple of positions on a team, namely, like we're saying, defense and center, if they can. Well, that limits where you can go and how much you can go. You might be able to work a young guy with potential, and so he might have term, but it's not a high salary, and so you might be able to fit somebody like that in. And you don't want to take somebody that's really a lot older with a high contract. That's might be good for very short term here, but after that, you're stuck again because you've given up some important assets.
So you're thinking no Giroux?
Giroux would be. I can't see how you're going to fit Giroux in, because Philadelphia has had a terrible season, and they are not going to sit there and give away their prized possession and get nothing back. Especially, it's Chuck Fletcher and dealing with the Wild where he was. So they're going to expect an arm and a leg back, and they're not going to get it. So I wouldn't think that deal would ever get done. I could see a deal being done with Montreal for Dvorak, if they are willing, and that they will have to give up for a first-round pick. But Dvorak's a young centerman, hasn't had a good year this year, has had a very good short career because he's not that old, but he's got potential, he's got enough size, and he's got the ability to help this club.
All right, you mentioned Kevin Fiala. You think that the Wild can figure out a way to sign him? I mean, he's obviously not happy with what happened last year because he wanted a deal then. What do you think happens here with Kevin?
Well, I personally think to sign Kevin, they're probably going to have to give up Dumba. And if they want to make that move, that's fine, because Dumba's salary is going to be commensurate with what what Fiala's asking.
Okay.
And so then you look to add a young defenseman back in there in Dumba's place.
Last thing for you, goaltending. it's always a question mark, no matter what team you're dealing with. Does he make a move for a goaltender, or does he feel that these two can figure it out with? And we're not just pinning it on Talbot and Kakkonen. Overall, the team's got to tighten things up as well. But do you think he needs a Marc-Andre Fleury or a name like that, or is that too big a rental, too big a risk?
I would not take Fleury. He's not had a very good year. And I think, and he's 37 years old, he wouldn't even be in consideration for me. And I do think right now to try and change goaltenders is really difficult. I would be surprised if that happened, because you're not sure about the goaltender you're getting, that he's going to be any better than what you got. And so you don't want to give up assets for an unknown in essence. Look at Markstrom. He's had a great year this year in Calgary. Last year he was terrible. And we could go around so many different guys. Bobrovsky in Florida, same thing. Yep. So I would be just sticking with the goaltenders and hoping and praying that they play like they played for the majority of the year.
All right. Lou Nanne, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it. We cherish these visits when you give us a minute, because you're never around here.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. Really enjoyed being here.